guys. Thank you for coming in and being patient with us. So we're going to get started. So as a quick reminder, this is over the speaking portion of the AP Spanish Language and Culture exam. And yeah, let's get started.
Okay, hi, this part is over the pronunciation. Though you're obviously not required to have a polished accent to get a 5, being able to pronounce words well will certainly help your grader better access your speaking portion. So doing a few tongue twisters in Spanish is a fun way to improve your pronunciation. If you have passwords in Spanish class, then you may be familiar with a few of these. So a few tongue twisters are hoy ya es ayer y ayer ya es hoy, ya llegó el día y hoy es hoy, which is to practice your double L and Y, and then that translates to today is already yesterday and yesterday is already today. The day has arrived and today is today. So practicing those is a good practice so you could get used to the same repetitive letters and stuff, and then you could find a whole bunch more on SpanishDict.com. Additionally, learning to roll your R's will greatly aid your pronunciation of certain words and help you sound more like a fluent speaker. So a good website to learn how to roll your R's would be WikiHow. They show pictures and everything, and they go detail through detail. As with most things, when learning a new language, practice makes excellent. So one method involves listening to Spanish shows with Spanish subtitles on. This forces you to read the Spanish to understand what's going on rather than using English to get by. It also helps you with pacing and better pronunciation if you read the words out loud. So you can have a Spanish movie playing, and then you can mute the movie and then just have the subtitles on, so you could read the subtitles instead of listening to it, which is a good practice. And also, if you know native speakers or even fellow Spanish students, speaking with them will improve your own speaking abilities over time.
Okay, so here's a few administrative details about the exam and this portion itself. So as an update on the whole of the exam, College Board has begun to release information about all the AP exams. Unfortunately for world language ones, there's no option to take it virtually like some of the other ones, something about cheating. And so for now, there are 3 different dates that you can take the exam, and they're gonna be all in person. So please consider that. So there's one on May 11th at 8 a.m., May 21st at 8 a.m., and June 4th at 8 a.m. So the speaking section as just the portion, along with the writing section, they both make up the free response section. And the speaking section is the shortest on the exam because it only takes 18 minutes for 2 questions, but these 2 questions are 25% of your score. So it's pretty heavy. So the first question will be your conversation, better known as the interpersonal prompt. And the second question will be your presentation prompt. So the conversation section is really short, and a recording will simulate the other person in the conversation, and you will have 20 seconds for each response after they speak, and there will be 5 exchanges. So you will have a preview of the conversation as your prompt with an outline of each exchange. So the presentation section is a little more lengthy. You are given 4 minutes to come up with a presentation on topic, and then you're given 2 minutes to verbally present to the microphone. So that is a lot of time for what is usually a fairly simple comparison, but it's important to make the best use of it.
So the first part of the speaking section is the conversation. Once again, you'll have a simulated voice, and you'll have around 20 seconds to make up a response to whatever they ask you. 20 seconds isn't really realistic, but you have to work with it. So the best way to practice the whole speaking section is practicing your speaking skills, your conversational skills, and that's a must. And it's relatively easy for you to become able to come up with a response when it's your turn, when you practice enough. And any response is better than nothing. If you don't respond at all, you're just not going to get anything. Even a little bit is going to help you a lot. And this comes from my own taking from the exam, since I didn't really practice much for this part of the exam, and I ended up repeating a lot of words over and over, but I still managed to get a good score despite that. It's also pretty fast-paced since it's only 20 seconds. It's not going to be a good idea to take notes on this section. It is a conversation, so the prompts are going to be short and sweet. Just do your best to remember what they ask and respond fully and as much as you can before you get cut off by the next prompt. And if you haven't answered as much as you plan to and the voice hasn't come back to it, you can keep talking. If you can do it, elaborating on something you said before can help your score. There isn't much to say about this section. It's just a conversation, but there are two things you might want to include in your conversation. First thing you have is self-corrections, and the other thing is a variety of vocabulary and word tenses. Self-corrections, they make the conversation a lot more smoother and seem more of a real conversation. So if you mess up on the pronunciation of a word, or you might repeat something, you can pause for a second, say lo siento, and correct yourself and just continue on with the conversation. And the variety of vocabulary and word tenses, they're just going to help you from repeating words over and over, and it'll show complexity within your conversation. If you're not used to this form of interpersonal speaking in Spanish, you're not alone. But thankfully, there is a lot of practice resources you have to prepare. College Board is surprisingly helpful in this case. On the Spanish language page, you'll find a lot of old exams and some sample prompts from previous years. Look over these and practice with them with the timer, and you'll become pretty well acquainted with the pace of the exam.
So then let's move on to the next portion of the speaking exam, and that is the presentation. So the presentation, it's a lot longer, and so please continue to work hard on it because it's a pretty weighty aspect of the exam as a whole. So your prompt is going to feature an aspect of the Spanish-speaking world, and your presentation will ask you to compare an aspect of your own community to that. So common examples include diversity, food choices, education, opportunities, jobs. It can be any of those. So you have 4 minutes to prepare and use all that time. When you're sitting there in the exam, it seems like a lot of time, but you do need to make the best of it. So take notes on the prompt so you won't get tempted to go off topic. And because it's a cultural comparison, Venn diagrams can be really useful. So you can jot down any ideas for a little impromptu script. You won't have enough time to write a whole like index card cheat sheet, but you will want to have a good idea of what you're going to say. And idiomatic phrases are really, really helpful, especially for a presentation. So you have 2 minutes after that to speak. So please use all that time. Because it's 2 minutes, don't struggle with finding the perfect word. If you can't get in a few seconds, use another word that's simpler and just move on with your presentation. If you do have like 15 or more seconds left on the clock after all that you've planned has been said, just wing it. You can elaborate on something you have said before or add in another similarity or difference. This may be a little difficult, but the more relevant detail that you add in, the better it'll be on your score. So using transition words will help you smoothly transition throughout points inside of your presentation. I believe we did cover this on the essay, so think of that as well. So self-corrections and a varied vocabulary and word tenses are suggested here. Think of all the presentations you've done in English. Sometimes you do stutter, you do get nervous, it happens, but you do correct yourself, so it makes it seem more smooth. So as with the conversation, before you take the exam, prepare your presentation skills. And the same thing is true with the conversation section. There are past exam prompts on College Board, and there are other practice websites. And you can simulate the timing of the exam with the timer. So if you haven't been introduced to it already in Spanish class, hablame.org is a great resource for preparing for the speaking portion. So the website features interpersonal and presentational speaking practice and even pronunciation practice like we talked about earlier. And there is a new reading practice activity if you're interested in that. So when it comes to presentational speaking, a good way to practice, like we said earlier, is with a friend. So back when I was struggling with my own speaking skills, I monologued a lot in Spanish. This is a little embarrassing, but I used to like pretend like I was on a talk show and I'd like just talk about things in Spanish. And surprisingly, that really helped me with my own Spanish. It improved a lot better. I was able to speak more cohesively. And if you can use idiomatic phrases while practicing, you're going to be more likely to use those on the exam, and that's going to look better on your rubric. So a friend is also a really good resource. So a friend that is taking or has taken the exam before can be great to rehearse those portions with. So this is just a little flow chart of what many people recommend to do when doing the comparison. So you're going to talk about your own culture first, and then maybe an aspect of the Spanish-speaking world that's on this topic, and then you can compare the similarities and contrast the differences. So this was a pretty short session. We're about to wrap up, but just one more detail. Please, please, please make sure the device that you're using for this section is working. So if I remember correctly, the way it works is that they will give you district iPads to record this section on, and there will be a part where you will have to speak into the microphone and hear yourself recording. I believe it's the honor statement. If you don't hear yourself, please call on the proctor. I think it's the counselor, Mr. Williams, will be there. There will be other former teachers there as well. Call on one of them. It's embarrassing, but if you don't hear yourself, it's not going to get scored. I'm speaking from personal experience. So if it's not granted permission to use your camera or microphone, nothing will be submitted. So that's 25% of your score gone. If you're having issues with your device, as I said, raise your hand and let someone help you. So it's better to get over that embarrassment than a media unscorable on your score report in July. So if you notice, we didn't take your IDs at the beginning of the session because we have our feedback survey. So that's how we take care of attendance. So you can either use the link or scan the QR code below.
Thank you guys for coming, and good luck on your AP exams this May and June.